if you're partnering with a vendor, that vendor, surely it's a partnership. And yes, there's commercials with this, and that's why it exists. There's a problem, there's a need, there's a solution, and there is a transaction that goes with this. But we're in cybersecurity, an industry of trust. Why are people not prepared to always keep pushing to raise their game and saying, thank you for the engagement? Why are buyers of services treating vendors as commodities? It's not a good game, this, is it? It's not getting to the real nub of what we need to do.
No, it's not. Government also has some things like buy local rules. They have, a weighting which applies if you've got X% of the industry local and that kind of thing. And for very small companies, some of these requirements would be quite onerous, like a mum and dad operation isn't going to have an IRAP certification. So how do you balance that again with wanting to do the right thing and not give all of your business to the big multinationals, because you do want to help your locals as well. So how do we make it easy for them to show that they are compliant? Or do we need to have a set of, if you're buying these things, these requirements aren't needed, but if you're buying these things, they are. And make it easy that way, as in don't bother putting those clauses in because it's not applicable.
Right. So there's a responsibility on the procurement and purchasing side to not overburden suppliers, and perhaps equally, everyone's trying to always, there's always a magnetism to best of breed.
Yep.
If we're going to look at other reasons, let's say government and local, as you say, and that applies in the US through to, Western Australia, what contextualization can we apply to this to make sure we get a good outcome for everyone and a win-win?
And you're not going to go with the most expensive or the most cheap necessarily. You want to go with who best meets your needs within your risk tolerances, within your constraints, is able to work with you as a partner, not just as a vendor. Because in health, generally your relationships are quite long, so you need to be comfortable in having that long-term relationship, but also be able to call out when they're not delivering what you need and working with them to improve that until you get what you need.
I hear you. This is such, goodness me, sometimes you get days where you get a theme and it's like a development on a theme and off it goes. And I've had so many conversations even today. I think 5 of them so far. And what's the time? It's only 11:44 a.m. local. But it's you do learn so much from it. So I am fascinated by your defense in breadth concept. I don't hear it very much. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, of course, but I think it's quite forward-thinking. Helen, to wrap up, what advice would you give other CISOs or CISOs and security practitioners in applying this kind of mentality to dealing with defense in breadth? And it doesn't have to apply just to health, does it? It's wider.
So if you think about the average tenure of a CISO, it's, 18 months to 3 years. So when you go in, you normally do that kind of assessment, right? You do your first 90 or 100 days where you listen, you learn, you try and understand the environment, where the current risks are, where the gaps are, where perhaps you've overcooked some stuff, and what can you do to bring it back so that you've got that balance. If you are a longer tenured one, how often do you go back and redo that to reassess your environment? And that, I think, is one of the keys. If you've been in an environment for 3 to 5 years, you probably need to do it again.
Interesting.
And recalculate, rebalance, and make sure that you've protected your entire environment, not just the stuff that was a gap 3 years ago.
Interesting.
Because they evolve. Your ecosystems move around, risks change, threats change.